bet you know by now your dating life isn't a coincidence. It's a giant reflection of your attachment style. And if your attachment style is anxious or avoidant, well, your dating life is probably an emotional roller coaster made up of chaos, heartbreak, and tears. And it's probably extremely frustrating. Trust me, I have been there. But what if I told you changing your attachment style will get rid of the toxic men and stop the heartbreak for good? Oh, and doing it is actually pretty easy. Consider this video your step-by-step, simple guide to becoming a secure attachment style. By the way, I'm so sorry if you could hear any noise out there. There are so many workers. They're doing some building like literally right there. So I apologize. I used to be an anxious avoidant attachment style. My avoidance would get triggered if a guy showed any real genuine interest in me, and my anxiety would get triggered if he was distant. It was a real cluster duck. I was so frustrated with my dating life. I had zero idea as to why I was genuinely repulsed by a guy who showed interest in me, and then I was addicted to emotionally unavailable men until I realized and I learned all about attachment styles. For the longest time, I seriously thought something was wrong with me. Only until I learned about attachment styles is when my dating life started to actually change, because I started to realize I was not broken, I was not defected. When you don't know about these things, you will question every single thing about you. So the first step to becoming a secure attachment style is to gather knowledge. And that takes me to the sponsor of today's video, short form. Short form makes the world's best nonfiction guides. They are like book summaries on steroids. I personally use short form whenever I have a free moment, whether that's waiting for a doctor's appointment, whether I'm waiting in line, basically anywhere I can replace doom scrolling, I read a short form summary. Everyone is always asking me like, how do you know so much, and where did you learn everything you know? And my answer is always reading. And with short form, there's no cap to how much you can learn, which is my personal favorite thing. Short form is actually where I read Attached, the #1 book on learning all about attachment styles and like gathering all this information. So for you, it would be a great place to start. Every single book I have read and used for my level up journey is on short form because they have such a variety of different genres. They have things like relationships, psychology, and spirituality. You know, all the things us girlies love to learn about. When I read Attached years ago on short form, I remember thinking, holy cannoli, I am not broken, I am not defected, and I'm not alone. Like, this is genuinely something a lot of people struggle with. And I learned that your attachment style is actually programmed into your nervous system at a very young age. And hearing that shifted so many things for me. Short form drops new book guides and new articles every single week, and you as a subscriber get to vote on which books to cover. The first 200 people to use my special link, shortform.com/Vakita, will get a free trial of unlimited access and an additional 20% off. I'm telling you, you do not want to miss this. It's only for the first 200 people, so go to the link in my description box and sign up ASAP. And again, thank you Shortform for sponsoring this video. So let's cover the basics. An attachment style is something that is formed with our parents at a very young age. It's how you form and maintain connections with people. Our attachment styles can change as we get into our adult years and we go through certain life experiences. Attachment styles are made up of 4 things: emotional bonding, intimacy, trust, and dependency. And the intensity of these 4 things is dependent on the type of attachment style you have. In this video, I am only focusing on the 2 attachment styles most people have, anxious and avoidant, and because I was both, I have some tea. First, we have avoidant attachment. This attachment style can present itself as distancing from other people, not wanting to be vulnerable, not wanting to get too close, a lack of intimacy. As soon as somebody comes close, they're now leaving. As soon as that person leaves, now all of a sudden feelings are developing and this person's like, oh my god, I like you a lot. But as soon as this person comes back, they're like, just kidding, I don't anymore. And I know this from firsthand experience. I'm gonna talk about avoidant with the anxious kind of weaved in there because that was my attachment style, but I will go down into anxious attachment just on its own. But when I tell you that having both of these as one is straight up mayhem, believe me, believe me. The dance that happens with the anxious and the avoidant is that the anxious wants to be validated and liked, while the avoidant doesn't want to come off as wanting to be liked or validated. So the anxious will be sitting there like, oh my God, why isn't he texting me? Why is he ghosting me? Why is he doing all these things? Why is he acting distant? While the avoidant will not send a double text, will not act crazy. So in the anxious stage, right, that anxious attachment will do anything in their power to be validated. They don't care how nuts they're coming across. They don't care if that man thinks they're a psychopath, whatever the case may be. They don't care. They just need that hit. They need to get their fix of validation, whatever they're feeling, because it's an addiction. But with the avoidant attachment dance, the avoidant will not let herself give into that need for validation. That fix isn't necessary, where the avoidant will compromise her independence and her character in order to get that hit. She will just be sitting there like by herself being a crazy person, by herself being a psycho, with her friends being like, girl, what do I do? Oh my God, do you think he likes me? He just Snapchatted me and all he said was, yeah, do you think that means he likes me? That is how this anxious avoidant kind of plays out. But the avoidant part in her, in me, would not let me ever act crazy. Like, no guy would ever know I was secretly in my bedroom being like, why aren't they texting me? Does he still like me? Why is he being distant? I wonder if he thinks other girls are attractive. So that anxiety is there with all of that, but the avoidant is not giving into that. Does that make sense? It's just chaos. Truly, it's straight up chaos. So if you have just avoidant or anxious or something else, just count yourself blessed, because having both was an actual nightmare. So this whole anxious avoidant was always push and pull. I wanted to get validated, so now what was happening was I was doing everything I could to get validated, right? So it's like, I want to know this guy still likes me. So now he's telling me he still likes me, but then when he tells me he still likes me, that's grossing me out and giving me the ick, so now I'm pulling away. And then while I'm pulling away, the fact that he's not chasing me is kind of turning me on. I'm like, ooh, that's kind of hot. Like, he's not giving in to me. And then that distance is causing me to want to come closer. As soon as he comes back, it's like this. So it was truly very menacing for not only myself, but for the guys I was dating, because I've only ever dated amazing guys. And so me not knowing what was wrong with me and like what was happening and why I kept doing this, I just thought, wow, this is so kind. They're so patient, and they're waiting around until I finally feel ready for commitment. And then I learned about all of this, and then I decided to just snip them off, because it was like I needed to heal and work through all of this stuff, because commitment issues were right there. So now the anxious part of me is falling for emotionally unavailable men, and the avoidant part of me is falling for extremely kind, genuine guys. So now I'm getting fed from both areas. So some general signs of this attachment style is literally being disgusted by emotional intimacy, and the thought of being with somebody freaks you out, because the biggest thing for an avoidant is the lack of autonomy they think they are going to lose. So you genuinely feel like getting into a relationship is the end of your life, and like you're cutting off all independence. You're not only trying to heal the place where these things came from, you're also trying to reframe your mindset around commitment, around relationships, around men. When you go through your dating life unknowing about your attachment style, you will blame men. When you are going for emotionally unavailable guys, because that is what your nervous system feels close to, it feels nice and comfortable and cozy there, you are gonna be like, it's his fault. Why is he treating me like this? Why is he ghosting me? Why is he, distancing himself? Why is he giving me the runaround? That's his journey. But your journey is to realize why you're attracted to that and why you're letting it happen. That is where the reframing of the men needs to play in as well. You have to realize that no, all men are not trash. All men do not suck. You are just bringing the ones into your life that do suck because you're attracted to that. Some part of you, your nervous system feels comfortable. So there's so many different areas that have to be healed in order for you to go out into the dating world and act like a normal person. Otherwise, you'll be a menace, as I was. Another sign is difficulty showing people you love them and you care about them. And this can be in any other relationship, a friendship, a familial relationship, relationship, a romantic relationship like we're kind of covering in this video, but it can be with anyone where you just feel like if you show them you love them and you show that vulnerability, they can weaponize that against you. Like, I know you love me, I know you care about me, so I'm gonna treat you like this. It's this fear that is seriously deep-seated that makes you feel like when you show people vulnerability and love for them, they can take that and use it against you, and that is your biggest fear. So you're not gonna do that. So there's just this like, nah, I'll just hang around, but I'm not gonna show you that I care. Now, what is the impact of this? Me firsthand knowing the impact, let me break it down. Your relationships will start to lack any depth. I was in situationships my entire life because of the fact that felt okay for me. Getting into a full-blown relationship was like disgusting and like I cannot do that. But then not having anybody, my anxiousness needed that validation. So the situationship is a perfect blend of both. And then in friendships, it was my friends feeling neglected. You don't like physical touch, you don't like affection, you don't want to tell me anything. And that coldness that comes from an avoidant is really hurtful to somebody who just wants to love you, who just wants to give you love. And then feeling grossed out by that love. Oh my God, just stop. But then when they stop, it's like, I want to come a little closer. And now you're just confusing that poor little person over there. So for an avoidant, being very, very cold and dismissive is going to cause an anxiety in them. So now their attachment style might be triggered. Something in them might get triggered because you're being cold, you're being distant. Another thing avoidants do is when they start to like somebody, that feels extremely weird and uncomfortable. And now the fear of being rejected is starting to come in. So what I personally used to do is literally sit there and condition myself into being grossed out by this person. So I always used to get asked, Vikita, how are you so like this with guys and how don't you care and blah, blah, blah. And I always thought it was a superpower. However, it's not really a superpower because I'm sitting there conditioning myself to not like this person, to think of flaws in them so that I don't have to fall for them. And now these feelings that feel uncomfortable to me can dissolve. And now the old me can come back. And that me is like, oh God, like I don't care. Text me, don't text me, do whatever you want. That is the avoidant. But the avoidant deep down wants and craves love and intimacy. It just doesn't feel comfortable. So that was a personal coping mechanism for feelings, for having strong feelings for somebody. Sitting with your uncomfortability will be a game changer. You becoming the person that self-soothes rather than going to something else. So for an anxious attachment style, their self-soothing comes from somebody else. They need somebody else to satisfy these uncomfortable feelings they are having. That is putting way too much burden on somebody else. The avoidant self-soothes by completely shutting off and being disgusted by that person or the feelings that they have for that person, as well as like going out and getting validation. That is extremely self-soothing to an avoidant. So for both of these attachment styles and all attachment styles, the number one way to heal is to self-soothe yourself. You are never gonna be in a relationship where certain uncomfortable things don't come up. Unfortunately, yes, you can fully heal from your attachment style, but you can be in circumstances where your attachment style will get activated. There are certain things that if a guy does to me right now, in this present day, that is just way too much and I'm not getting my space and I'm feeling smothered and it's just too much, that is when I start getting activated. But now, because I've healed, right, and I'm in this space of having all of these different protocols set up in my life, I know when I'm feeling activated, I take this protocol, I start doing my nervous system regulation, I self-soothe, I deactivate the bomb by myself. And so that person doesn't need to change their level of love and their level of affection. I need to change how I'm receiving it and how it's making me feel. And that all comes down to, as well, having boundaries. You have to have boundaries with people and yourself. One non-negotiable for me in relationships is I need a day by myself. That is my refuel and recharge day. It is a non-negotiable. So many people complain about how their marriage sucks, and once you get kids, it's all downhill, and once you get into a relationship and you get married, it's all downhill, then you lose yourself and you don't have time for yourself. No, it's that you have just not set any boundaries for you in that relationship, in that dynamic. If refueling and recharging for you looks different, we will work that into our situation. But you have to be firm with your boundaries. You have to have things in place in your life that deactivate you if you get activated. And is this maintenance protocol you follow to keep you at baseline? People are so scared to tell people what they need, and that is why the majority of people are suffering in their relationships. There is no part of me that would ever want to be in a relationship that is not happy. Like, we're all sovereign beings who ultimately deserve happiness, and just because you're in a relationship or you have kids or you're married, that it has to be doom and gloom and like everything is done. And now you don't have time for yourself, you can't look good because, I've just got too much on my plate. You have to find the time. And that takes me to the anxious attachment style, which is a person who is unable to voice their needs because they fear the person leaving. And the fear of somebody abandoning them is so debilitating to an anxious attachment style that they will do anything in their power to keep people close. So of course, I can't speak so much on this attachment style because I did not have it to the level of most people who are just anxious attachment styles. Just from what I know from observing people around me in anxious attachment styles is extreme people pleasing. This attachment style is addicted to validation. Let it be their friends, let it be the romantic partner in their life. Their attachment to them is all consuming, and it literally is like an addiction. If you have this attachment style, you probably get called kooky, crazy, clingy, needy. Guys probably ghost you. They feel like, she's a fun time, one-time girl, but she's not the wife. You get left for other girls. There's a lot of games that happen, and you feel attracted to that. You genuinely find that attractive. So you're always activated, and that person probably thinks of you as dramatic. People in your life probably think of you as dramatic or sensitive, and that you're just too much. When in reality, you're just activated as heck. Like, you are activated to the point where you don't even know who you are, like, without this need for people's attention and approval. Here's the thing with an anxious attachment style. Anxiety is just misplaced imagination. When you have an anxious attachment style, you are in the future. You're thinking about the worst thing that can happen. You're thinking about when he's gonna leave, when the shoe's gonna drop. So you're thinking into the future and you're imagining things, which is all great. We love to do that. When we're manifesting our dream life, we're thinking of all the beautiful things we want. But when we're thinking about all the things we don't want to happen, your imagination is misplaced. It should not be there. It should be thinking about all the beautiful things that can happen in this relationship. It should be thinking about all the amazing times you're gonna have, how loving this guy is, how amazing he treats you, how many kids you're gonna have. That is all great stuff to think about. I know a lot of people are like, don't go future pacing, and I feel that in a certain kind of way. If you're future pacing from anxiety and you're trying to visualize from anxiety, it's confusion. It's, again, misplaced imagination. Your future pacing, your visualization of what would be and what should be and can be should come from excitement and detachment and a knowing that this thing is going to happen. This is the relationship of my dreams. This man is amazing. Because oftentimes with anxious attachment styles and anxiety in general, is anxiety causes you to fear certain things happening in your life, in your relationship, and your focus is now on that, but that potential might have not even occurred or might not even been a potential in the first place, but now your fixation on it causes it to actually happen. Your fear of this person leaving you or something bad happening is causing you to create potential timelines, potential outcomes that probably weren't even there in the first place. So your fear of it happening is making it actually happen. This is why a lot of women experience a really amazing guy in the first couple months of dating, and once they start to attach to him, they now experience a completely different man. It's because now they're in their head. They've moved from body, they're into head, and now the head is conjuring up what could go wrong. What if he likes somebody else? Yes, he said he's committed to me, but what if he's actually talking to another woman? And what if these things are happening? And that whole misplaced imagination is actually turning this man into the man you're fearing he might be. And a part of you that's deep in there that you don't even know is in there wants that thing to happen that you're fearing so that you can confirm to yourself, see, told you. For example, if you have deep abandonment issues and you're dating a man, you are going to subconsciously push him consistently to the edge where he finally decides to leave you. And when he leaves you, then your ego feels good saying, see, everyone leaves me, everyone abandons me. So deep down, you are wanting this thing to happen so it can satisfy a part of you. And this is why self-awareness is the number one thing for healing and getting into a secure attachment style. And again, it's very easy. All you have to do is gain self-awareness and catch yourself and have a protocol in place. It's a 3-step process. You need protocols in place. And by the way, I have a membership called the Feminine Protocol where I have step-by-step coaching modules for every area of life. Check it out down below. But essentially, anxious attachment styles are just incredibly sensitive, insecure people, not because that is who they are. It is who they have been programmed to be at a very young age based on how they related to their caregivers. The sequence of events with anxious attachments goes like this. The anxious attachment gets activated. Unconscious anxious attachments are always in a state of activation. They are never without their activation. It's just who they are, right? Like that's just their personality at that point. So the anxious is activated. Now the activation starts to trigger certain actions and desires and impulses for the attachment style, for the anxious person to take. That person now starts to feel compelled to send 7 texts in a row, regardless of if that person's responding. Text, call, DM, stalk, like photos, go to friends. Where's this guy at? What's he doing? Have you heard from him? Are you with him? You're doing drive-bys. You're stalking him in your car. Like you're showing up to places that you know he's at because you checked his stories. Your impulses are so strong that you're not even thinking about the potential consequences of all of this. You don't care that man's gonna call you crazy. You just need to know where he's at. You have to satisfy that impulse. Now that you've satisfied the impulse, it's like a and then you sit in this for a second and then you go, oh my God, what have I done? I've just texted all his friends. I've just stalked his Instagram page. I've just gone in the car and done a drive-by to where he's at. I've just showed up to the bar. What's gonna happen? Oh my God, is he gonna think I'm crazy? And then now that anxiety and that regret starts to come trickling in. And now you're like, I have to satisfy that. So now you're going back to the reactivity and you're like, I need a text, I need a call, I need to know he's not upset with me. I need to know that he still likes me after all of this craziness. And now you're back into that activation. It's a different string of impulses now. Now it's an impulse of, I need him to validate that he still likes me and he's not mad at me that I've done all of this crazy stuff. And so the cycle repeats itself. So now we know all of this information. How do we actually change and get into a secure attachment style? Baby girl, I got you. Let's talk healing, because I told you it's going to be easy and I promised you it's going to be easy, and it is. So now we're going to go through the formulas and everything step by step. D is for date, I is for investigate, and C is for change. Here is the advice most people are not going to give you because it goes against all self-love, love yourself, healing advice. 50% of your healing will need to be done in a relationship, going on plenty dates, and having an active dating life. The first 50% is done on your own before you can get into the active dating stage. So stage 1 is unconscious insecurity. This stage, you're just going around, you're insecure, you don't really know why, but you just know that it's there. Stage number 2 is conscious insecurity. You still feel incredibly insecure. All of those triggers, all of that activation is still there, but now you're conscious of it. You know, dang, why do I keep feeling like I need the validation? I don't want this anymore, but it still feels you. It's still there. Stage 1 and 2, that is all done alone. You first need to gain self-awareness. You gain consciousness again. You realize, why do I need these things? Where are they coming from? That is all the healing you do on your own because nobody else can do that for you. Then we get to stage 3 and 4 where we do this with somebody else. And again, you're not telling every single date like, hey, I'm here because I'm healing my attachment style. No, you go on these dates, you see what pops up, you get into the dating apps, and you start monitoring. When I get a message from a guy and he doesn't respond after 2-3 days, where did my mind automatically go? Does it go to, he's probably found somebody else on the app that he likes more? He's a cheater, he's a ghoster, oh my God, this is never gonna work. Now we are gaining a little bit more security. So in stage 3, it's really all about trying to gain conscious security. You are learning to catch patterns and reframe them faster and faster. You now have set coping mechanisms in place that you can go to as soon as you feel triggered. You're self-soothing, you have self-care practices, you know when to ask for support, and you know how to ask for support. This is all happening in stage date, investigate, change. This happens now quicker and quicker and quicker as you start to trigger yourself and see where you still have leaky parts in your cup. Then we get to stage 4, which is having a secure attachment style. In this stage, you are just unconsciously secure. You have this down pat. You get triggered, you feel a pattern come on, you know how to handle it, you've got all of your tools in your toolbox, you know when I feel anxious, okay, I know what to do with that. In this stage, you are instantly, almost always catching your patterns. You are reframing them extremely quickly. You almost do it unconsciously. You just know what to do. You don't have to think about it. Now I've given you all the information as to what could be happening with you, so you already have the knowledge. Now it's just about gaining your own self-awareness and catching your patterns. And you take it day by day, and you will notice that becoming a secure person is actually extremely easy, and I'm always rooting for you. Don't forget to show me some love by hitting the subscribe button on the screen. And if you're feeling the fire in you to really take yourself to the next level right now, watch this video next.